Jay-Z was doing Black Album. Him and me driving in my car one day. He didn't have a car in LA. I'm driving him around. I got a beat that says, Mr. Rockefeller, can you get this to Jay-Z for me? And he's like, let me hear it. And it plays for a minute or two, and he goes, no, I think I'm going to use that because I'm the new Mr. Rockefeller.
What we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party.
How you doing, party people? This is Talib Kweli, the BKMC, the MCEO. Welcome to another installment of the People's Party. Make some noise, everybody. Yeah. Okay. How you doing, Jasmin?
I'm good. How are you?
We got Jasmin, Leigh in the house. You know what I'm saying? Today's show is very special for me because we have a friend of mine. I love when I get to interview my friends. This guy is an icon. He in hip hop. He's an inspiration. I see myself as a team player, but I know that I'm good at being a team player because I take myself very seriously as a solo artist. This artist is one of the greatest team players in hip hop. He's a super fantastic MC that I've learned a lot from. He's a great producer. He's an all-around great guy. He's part of a couple of different super dope hip hop situations. I'm talking about Dilated Peoples. I'm talking about Step Brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Evidence in the place.
Yes, I'm excited.
Big air in the spot.
Woo!
How you doing?
What's up?
Good?
Oh, I'm sorry, the air dab. That's what we're doing here.
Oh man, it's good to see you, Ev.
You too.
Thanks for coming through.
Coffee.
Coffee and wine.
I'm going to start with the coffee.
And water.
You know, the wine, or wine looks like the glasses belong in like Jazzy Face Studio or something like that.
Oh, did you say Jazzy?
Have you met Jasmin before?
We have.
Hey,
It smells
Evidence.
festive. I feel like I'm in the right place.
Yeah, man. You put it down. That's your spliff right there.
It is.
I was telling them Evidence smokes like a Jamaican from Brooklyn.
Yes, that's the only way to do it.
Fonto leaf spliffs.
I do a lot of things like a Jamaican from Brooklyn.
Oh,
We're about to find out what else Ev does like a Jamaican from Brooklyn.
Let's go.
Evidence, to start off, I got to give you proper respect, man to man, just as an MC and a lyricist. There's a lot of people who I look towards or look to that give me inspiration. And you, as a lyricist, beyond you being a producer, I've learned a lot from you and from your style. Like the Mr. Slow Flow thing, like your line about it's not where you place your words, it's where you don't. That's something that I've incorporated in sort of my technique.
That's crazy.
You know, when I heard you say that, I'm like, wow, because I'm a very wordy, loquacious MC.
You are one of the most.
Yeah, I'm always putting words where they don't fit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's sort of, and not, I don't take away from because that's how I develop my style, right? My style comes from doing that. But when I listen to...
And it's your style.
It's my style, right? But when I listen to Slum Village, when I first heard, in particular, T3, and when I heard you, and I'm like, the way that Slum Village was just sort of like becoming instruments to the beat.
Letting the track breathe.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I got to thank you for that, for just being an inspiration to me
That's an honor, bro.
as an artist.
That's a straight honor.
Yeah, man, definitely. Last time I saw you was in the south of France.
We had a good night.
We did. What was the
Fancy.
name of that town?
I don't remember. Yeah, it's Kweli pops up at the craziest places. You always like. You are the definition of the traveling man. I know it's Moses' song, but it's like it's you always.
Yeah, man,
You
I'm on the
stay
go.
moving always.
We had a great conversation and we had a good time. We had a great conversation, but what I took away from that conversation was you've been very successful with or without a deal. You've been very successful whether you're on BT and MTV or whether you're just out at some club in the south of France that neither of us remember the name of the town.
Yeah.
A lot of people would see Evidence and myself, they associate us with underground backpack rap or underground, like we're just about the culture, and in a lot of ways we are, right? That's what drives the creativity. But our conversation was about business and about marketing and promoting and how we do that at this age and this stage in our career. And I think people would automatically assume that our conversation would just be about how real to keep it in hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like I remember when we were talking. At some point, you were like, "I wish we could just have this conversation on a camera," you know, because it was like one of those moments. And here we are, and you got this opportunity to do it. So I'm honored. I've been turning down podcasts, not that I'm like a sought out thing, but like just talking in like this setting is. I'm used to going to the radio and they do like a little 1-2 little bit, and then it's rap. You know, and so like the interview part I never got to like sit down, talk, and just feel free. And when you asked me to, I was like, yeah, I got to be grateful that Kweli just, you know, wants me to talk. So
No doubt.
I'm here, and I can't wait to see what we get into.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Your latest album is Whether or Not.
Yeah.
It's a great album. On this album, the thing that struck me, you've always been a self-aware, sort of a hyper self-aware MC. Like you're always like, you don't down yourself, but you're always talking very honestly about where you are in your career, where you are in life. That's sort of been your thing. But I feel like you went even deeper on this album.
Yeah.
You talked about yourself. You left evidence out of it for some of it.
I tried to.
You
It's like a process. I think we came up in a guarded era. You know, I didn't know a lot about the rappers who I was, you know, with their poster that I was putting on my wall. I didn't know a lot about them as people. The interviews we got were limited. Press was something you read. There was no internet.
And it was to sell the record, right?
To sell the record, and people did their interviews in their rap voice. You know what I mean? Like it was like almost like they were performing. It wasn't. You never got to know about the person so much. And the ones that you did that gave themselves to you, it wasn't a surprise that they were the ones who ended up having a lot of success. You know, and so knowing that era, like starting with that, that's like how you come out. You know what I mean? You're like always in your b-boy mode, and you're doing that.
It becomes like an armor.
Yeah, and you don't really open up, but then that's cool because then it's not about your life so much. It's about what you do on the mic, how you perform, you know, what you build as the Superman that you're building yourself up to be, you know, and who doesn't want to be that as a kid, like be something bigger than just a human, you know?
Right.
And so you create this moniker and you run around as that, but after a while that stopped getting rewarding to me. It didn't. I started feeling like I was living something that I wasn't, and I wasn't on record ever like rapping about things that I didn't do. I was rapping with Raaka. You know, I mean, I had somebody to check me always, and Dilated Peoples, and I had a group around me, and checks and balances that come with being in a group, you know. And but when I started going solo, when my mom passed in 2004, I was like, I made this song called I Still Love You, and we tried to put it on the end of a Dilated album, and it felt like just weird, like sore thumb, and it made me realize, okay, I haven't opened up enough to even do a song about this and it be my art, you know what I mean? And so it was like, oh, I kind of hit a brick wall with that. So that's when I really wanted to do solo stuff. We always knew we wanted to. We were solo artists who came together to form a group. But at that point, I was like, I want to start, I'm not going to lose evidence, but I want to start shedding that more and then put me out for better or for worse and find the reward in that. And that's scary because if somebody doesn't like a line you say or syllables didn't line up or something, that's kind of whatever. But if I'm doing a song really about my life and who I am and you don't fuck with that, that's going to hurt more, you know? But on the flip side, the reward is when people do fuck with it, then you're like, oh shit, like they actually like me for me. And so that became more rewarding. I'm not trying to be an emo rapper, but I'm not trying to be as guarded, you know.
Right.
And so
Trying to
like
be human.
Yeah, human.
It's the scariest thing because you talk about putting on a persona or whatever. So when you're that rapper, Evidence or whatever, and you put something out, it's like it's connected to you, but it's not your personal
It's a part
things
of you.
that you've been through, though.
Right. It's things you're like, in a way it is. It's like things you're aspiring to be, or, you know, you're feeling like I could jump off a building, or like, you know, you want to represent that to people and be a leader like that. But yeah, on the flip side of it,
It's the same thing with comedy because you have comics that go out and they'll say like, they'll do jokes with, you know, just surface jokes. But when you go out there and you actually like tell people about your life, and if they don't laugh at that, then it's like, oh, you don't like me. So it's so much harder, but it definitely is so much more rewarding at the end of the day.
Right. I feel like for us, you know, I'm in my 40s. I'm assuming we're near the same age.
yeah.
I feel like for rappers, when we get to this point in our career and you're still vibrant and active, what else are you going to do but tell your story? Your last album reminds me of Race to 5'9" last album, Book of Ryan, which I really enjoyed that because he really went deep and personal.
Which is like an outstanding album.
It's out fucking standing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But his album is more like the story of Ryan growing up, right? Your album, you're dealing with like the birth of your child, and you're dealing with your girl having breast cancer. You're dealing with things that are happening right now, and you're letting us in, and that feels different. Was that hard to do?
Yeah, because there's a fine line to me on selling sympathy. You know what I mean? Like, because if you're down and you've been a part of people's lives, I think it's their nature to want to help you and feel for you and feel bad or feel good for you. Right. But when you're putting out too much of that, I think it's dangerous. So that's why, like, I have a song about that, but then I got a song with Alchemist and Makami just spazzing out, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like for me, I need to balance that because, I don't want to be the woe is me rapper or I can only write about I woke up and ate breakfast, like daily shit. I don't want to do. I still want to have wordplay, and I want to rap too. Right. Yeah. So
you want to get better.
I always want to get better.
Right. That seems to be a focus of yours.
Always.
The idea that as we grow, we age like fine wine. We get better.
It doesn't happen much, but if you love it and you really do, and you have means to support yourself financially, and you can dedicate love to this where it's not interfering with that, or vice versa, it's possible. It's very possible, and it happens. There's cases of it. There's Rock Marcy. There's people out there. You know what I mean?
There's you.
There's Talib Kweli like a motherfucker. There's a lot of people. We could do a whole podcast about that. And then there's people who fall the fuck off. And I think those people don't forget how to rhyme cat and hat and bat and mat. Just life gets in the way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they didn't fall off per se. They just, rap is like the gym or anything else. You know, if you bench, if you're benching this much, you didn't walk in there and bench that much. You did reps and you did all kind of shit to get you to that point. And then you leave the gym alone and come back for 2 months. You're not putting that up again because
you got to work back up to it.
You got to work back up to it. And I think that's the problem is people think that they're dope. They take a step away and then they come back and say, nah, I was dope. And then, nah, you ain't been working out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and people that I'm around are disturbed as far as work. It's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? It's 26 hours a day. Go to Alchemist spot. It's like, it's adolescent. You know what I mean? It's like...
That's interesting that you say that because even, you know, you talk about me being a traveling man and one of my greatest hip hop stories ever is I had a show in Amsterdam and I don't recall how I found out that you and Alchemist and Fashawn were in Amsterdam.
Yes, pre-Instagram.
Pre-Instagram, right?
It was Twitter was popping.
It was Twitter or maybe even MySpace or something. I don't know. Yeah. Twitter was popping.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
I think it was Twitter.
But I found out that y'all were in Amsterdam. Yeah. And I was staying at like, you know, Leigh Meridian or something like that, right? Some sort of just chain hotel. And I remember even when I was staying at the hotel, I was like, oh, I got to stay at this chain hotel. I like to stay at nicer places than that. And I went to link up with y'all and y'all were staying in a fucking hostel.
Yeah.
You, Alchemist, and Fashawn, right? And now, at this point, you had success with Dilated at this point. Like, you're doing records with Kanye West. Like, Alchemist is Eminem's DJ at this point. Like, clearly, you didn't have to stay in a hostel.
You know why we did?
Tell me why. Because I know why, because you told me, but tell the audience.
Because you could smoke weed.
What? Was this before Amsterdam was
in
allowed?
Amsterdam, in the hotels, you know, there's still no smoking policies, you know. So there's like, we just wanted a place where we could play music, dumb out, smoke, and catch the vibe of Amsterdam.
Now, see, I developed this whole romantic story in my brain for why it happened.
Why?
I was like, man, these guys are so ill. Like, they could just stay in the fancy hotel, but they got Fashawn on the road, and it's his first time overseas, and they teaching him how to grind.
There was a part of that. There was a part of that.
That was the story I heard.
Yeah, no, there's truth to that, because because I think his expectations were, because we had toured in the States before and stayed at nice places. I think the expectation was that, but when we were explaining to him, like, we'll just get a little room and dumb out. It was definitely, like, his first off-the-bat experience. Like, okay, there's other sides to this or whatever.
They had the windows open. It was summertime, right? The windows was wide open, and there was huge mosquitoes flying around this hostel, right?
With the little, it was like a A-frame, like a little room.
And I walked in, I'm like, look at these mosquitoes. And they were listening to music, smoking weed.
The mosquitoes?
No.
Oh, just kidding.
But this is what I remember. I smacked a mosquito against the wall, and it was like a big blotch of red on the wall, this big. And I'm like, this mosquito has been sucking on all y'all blood all night.
Right. It was
This one
full.
mosquito's got all of y'all.
Being young.
But yeah, I got to go crate digging with you and Alchemist, which
Yeah, we went all day.
yeah, which is and you know what? I got to go crate digging and to weed spots.
Can you explain what crate digging is?
Yeah, we dig for records because we, a lot of production we do is sample-based stuff. So there's a whole like art form to digging for records. It's more than just going to the section of soul or jazz or prog. There's like, we look for years and producers and labels and all kind of little clues to find the illest samples. And so yeah, going to Netherlands in general, across the whole Netherlands, not just Amsterdam, is fire. Right. Europe, period, is like, for a person like me, like a lot of the reason I'll even go tour is because I know I get to go dig previous to every show every day, or God willing, an off day.
Right.
But yeah, that's the shit. And yeah, you went with us all day.
We also went weed sort of crate digging.
We shot a video that never came out.
We shot a video that the guy who shot the video was a guy I met on Twitter. It was Twitter. It was a guy I met on Twitter who said, "I'm gonna shoot a video for you for free." Shot the video and the guy got missing.
Yeah.
But you took
was High Tech there?
High Tech.
No, it was I don't know if he was there. It was a song that High Tech produced.
Yeah, called "Lifting Off," a song about smoking weed.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. You took me to. I was already smoking weed in Amsterdam, but you took me to certain spots. You took me to Damn Crink.
Yeah.
I had to take off my hat. It was
Damn
fancy.
Crink. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had
He
baseball
took it
hats.
off. Yeah,
Put
yeah.
your pinky up while you smoke.
Yeah, we had to take off our. I don't take off my hat to go to nightclubs that serve champagne. So I was like, oh, this must be some good ass weed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's about respecting their spots. I think they have cameras on the ceiling and people with hats come in like this
Right.
and you can never see who they are.
That's what it is.
God forbid something happens.
you can't wear a hoodie in there because
Yeah,
they need to be able to see you.
See you, that's all. But we know the owner, so
Right. You took me to Gray Area.
yeah, that was where they had Kush.
Right. I've been going to Gray Area since. Back since that time.
Yep. They're from Minneapolis, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, you're like you know a lot about marijuana.
I know a lot about it from extensive practice.
Yeah, man. Do you consider yourself a marijuana activist?
No.
Okay. 'Cause some people do. There's a lot of smokers and stoners who like, I'm active in, we had Be Real here, and he's considered a marijuana activist. Man.
That's by default, just because he's the poster child for marijuana. Period. He's our legend of our era of that. Yeah, he's what got me into smoking weed.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Do you remember when you first had weed?
Yeah, it was a thing. Yeah, just copping a bag and making it. It could last a lot longer, But it was the same thing. Growing up in Venice, I think everybody smoked weed. Everyone could do a kickflip. Everybody knew how to where not to go. I think it was probably one of the most culturally diverse places in Los Angeles. My parents are from Brooklyn, and Coney Island by the water, so it makes sense that they moved to Venice Beach. It's like closest thing you're going to get to that. And so yeah, growing up in Venice made you a certain type of person, and smoking weed was one of the things you did.
Yeah, Venice is a huge part of your story.
Yeah.
Just like Brooklyn is a huge part of mine.
It's important in LA, not to cut you off, but like
No, please go on.
when people say I'm from LA, it's kind of hard to know what that means. LA is so different. The people in the valley are not living the same life that somebody in Inland Empire is living, that's living in
South Central
to the South Bay to whatever. It's like it's just different. So when you can say I'm from Venice, or I'm from Compton, or I'm from Pacoima, or I'm from somewhere like that, now we can like zoom into your narrative more, versus just throwing up LA as like a broad stroke. Not to say that New York isn't, but like you could blindfold me and put me in the middle of the Bronx, then blindfold me, put me in the middle of Brooklyn. It might not feel like that different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's-
LA is so different. You know
It's
what
the
I mean?
same in
It's
New York too. And I think it's that if you live there, then you understand the difference of it. Because from someone looking out, it's like, oh, everybody from LA is the same. From someone looking out, everyone from New York is the same. But people from the Bronx are different from people from Brooklyn, from different people from Long Island.
They are, but what I mean is the just structure of the city might be similar, or here, like, meaning one place you live by the water, and the other place you live next to a mountain. You know what I mean? It's like LA is so big that it just breeds so many different lifestyles and just what you look at. You know what I mean? And how that makes you. But I agree, but different.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, because my music is so pro-black and so socially conscious, and because I'm so vocal on social media,
It is, but it never felt like that.
good. I'm glad. But because it is,
No, not that that's good
No,
or
I
bad, but what I'm saying is it's coincidental. You spit.
right.
So
that comes first.
That comes first.
Yeah, the
you know
spitting comes first.
And so then subjects vary.
Right. But because I'm like that, Jared has said to me that sometimes, like, he'll mention that he's doing this podcast with me, and people be like, Kweli, he's racist, right? So I get that. I get people accuse me of that, and it's like when I look at
You are the definition of how social media is different than meeting a
life.
person. Yeah. If anybody in the whole world, it's you.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
But what's interesting
Twitter,
is-
I mean. You know what I mean? Yeah, because people look at your Twitter and they form an opinion about you. They just do. Because
Yes.
how you choose to interact.
yes, I think it's
And
just
how much time you devote to
the
it.
time, the lack of what's going on in their life, because it really has a lot more to do with them.
Yeah.
And just the whole unapologetic thing. You know, you see a black person who's unapologetic, who's saying what it is. We're taught how not to be like that. But because of that, you know, I have a lot of white friends, and beyond having a lot of white friends, I work with a lot of white people in hip hop. I don't think you can work in hip hop without working with white people, whether it's in behind the scenes or as artists. But I would never say because I work with white people or I know white people that proves I'm not racist. What proves I'm not racist is my actions and my words. And I say this because it's hard for me sometimes to talk to a white artist in hip hop without unnecessarily comparing them to other white artists, because I never want to do that. What is interesting to me about what you do is that you have always felt very authentic to me as a hip hop artist. And a lot of white artists in hip hop, like without naming any names, without a lot of white artists in hip hop, to me, and I'm sure to a lot of black people, felt like, oh, this is someone who's acting black, or this is someone who's trying to be black to participate in this culture. You have this level of authenticity that comes with just being evidence. I've never thought of you as someone who tries to act black or someone who's trying to be black or be in the culture. And I think that's very important. And could you speak to that a little bit?
I think, once again, it goes back to Venice. You know, growing up, in Venice was just a place where you had your guard up all the time. And surfers were fucking crazy. You know, gangsters were prevalent. And so you learned how to move, and you learned about people's culture. You just did early. So I'm grateful for that. I'm just grateful. I think the only way you can really maybe do what you're saying is to be from it. You know, and so when my parents got divorced, I lived in the north side of Santa Monica, which is a very nice neighborhood, you know. My parents were renting a house. They split at 4. I moved to Venice, and then that's what shaped me. So my father wasn't with him, and I had a little beef in my like informative years from like 12 to 16. We really kind of fell out, and those are like the important years, you know. So who raised me? Raaka.
Raaka, right.
He was my big brother / father. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so, you know, things I learned early. His cousin came home from jail, and you know, and we're all smoking, and I'm 15, you know, and I didn't know any better, and I just asked him, you know, what'd you do? And everyone was just like, you know, and Rock was like, yo, let me show you this rhyme I kicked. Pulled me in the other room, and it's like, you know, around here we say what they get you for, you know. And I was like, noted. You know what I mean? But like, how are you gonna learn that?
He was giving you codes.
Yeah, man. You know, and so like, it just taught me he taught me a lot as far as
Street smarts.
Yeah, street smarts and how to act. You know what I mean? And then some kind of, you're just imitating. I have a son. He's just imitating me all day long. You know what I mean? So at those years, I probably looked to Raaka a lot for a lot of that. And
Can we give some shout outs to Raaka Air Science?
yeah, Raaka is my man. That's my
Show some love to
big
Raaka.
bro. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so
We love
Shouts out
Raaka.
yeah, you know, but I don't know, just being true to who you are and
Yeah, because I see this.
and bleeding, you know, just what comes out of you. If it came across like that, then I'm blessed that it hit you like that. There could be somebody else who thinks differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
And
that
so-
movie, the Jonah Hill movie, the 90s, which I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed the performances from the kids, but it was hard for me to relate to that movie because it was like this. So there's this white kid in L.A. What neighborhood were they in that movie? Was it?
I never saw it.
Me neither.
I don't know.
See.
It might have been Venice, but it's like was it Venice? I see somebody shaking their head. It's like Venice. It's like
It's a LA. It's based in LA. The movie. I didn't see it.
I'm hearing the Valley in my headphones.
but Santa Monica,
Oh yeah.
right, which is close
Which
to
was
Venice.
I was talking about. That's where I was.
But it's still totally different
Right,
town
so-
than Venice.
Yeah.
Like it's the movie is sort of this homogenized white kid getting introduced to hip hop because he's trying to imitate what he thinks the cool kids are, and just the diverse cultures and him
That's the
learning
nature
the
of being young. Is that like
Yeah.
I was just saying, you just want to imitate what you like. You know what I'm saying? But keep going.
Oh yeah. What was interesting to me about that movie was the movie was about this kid who was an outsider, but I was far more interested in the stories of the kids he was trying to imitate. And I feel like you're one of those kids. That was the point I was trying to make. But yeah, so social media. We were talking about social media earlier, and you were talking about how people see me different based on my social media interaction.
Yeah.
You're very premeditative with the way that you use your social media.
Yeah.
And you've
Stoned.
always been like that.
Overthinking, smoking everything. I'll write everything you want to say is in a draft. That's where all the real shit is. Like, and once in a while you get the guts and shit,
Right.
you hit that button.
But you kind of like beasted on Instagram.
I was early.
Yeah, like you got me on Instagram.
Yeah,
I saw what you and Babs was doing on Instagram, and that made me interested. Because I saw how you could be creative with it. I didn't get to the creative level. You guys are ill with the photographs. If y'all don't know, follow Evidence on Instagram. Right now he's like, he's inspiring me because of how great of a father he is, but also on Instagram. But also like the photography is crazy. Like you're like very creative with it.
Love, yeah. There was this app called Instagram, and there was nobody on it. I'm talking only people from Japan and Istanbul, Turkey. It was a weird thing. It was like this overseas app, we thought, or something, and it was dope because you could put filters on the photos. So Babu, my DJ, put a picture up one day, and it had an ill filter on it, and I didn't understand it. So he's like, I stopped posting photos on Twitter, and I'm putting them on Instagram. And then he said it's dope because people leave comments in this. They leave comments, and I talk back to them there. And he's like, I'm just doing this. So this was 2011, something like that. So my mother was a photographer. My cousin, she's my aunt or my second cousin
She's
removed.
related.
Yeah, she's like that. And she's one of those. She's like one of the best. So I come from a photography background. So I thought this would be fun. I'll take photos, and I won't answer questions about rap. And I'll just pretend I'll create a new moniker for myself as a photographer. And so I started doing that shit, and it got contagious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was fire. 10 likes, you're on the popular page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, it was the beginning of that. And so it started spreading really fast, and I built up a following of people who weren't even aware I was a rapper. So if I have 300,000 followers, I would say there's 100,000 on there that have nothing to do with rap.
Wow.
And it maybe even opened them up to me as a rapper. But yeah, we were early on that shit.
Social media is such an amazing thing. I actually was early on Instagram too, but I was like, oh, this is whack, no one's on it, and I left, and that's like one of the biggest mistakes. But it's so important being in social media, especially if you're an underground artist, and that's music, actor, anything. Like, you can literally take your career and shape it the way that you want to do it.
That's the thing. Once I learned how to use a camera and it inspired me to get a real camera and everything. There was a while where we stopped using our iPhones or Droids or Androids and started loading up photos from our real cameras and started beasting out like that. After I really learned the mechanics of the camera, it taught me, I stopped doing that, and I started doing more posting about my life, more my music, and so I declined on the photography because now I'm shooting photos of my son, or I'm shooting photos of Alchemist, or I'm shooting photos for covers for artists. I just did Muggs and Crime Apple's cover, and like things
So
like that.
that's turned into like now you're shooting covers.
Yeah, but I don't like it if it's a job. I don't
Muggs
want you.
is the
I don't
homie.
want you to tell me what to shoot. But if I can do what I want, then I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, Muggs is a homie, but you see that doing that for people for a check.
I'm not doing it for a check for them.
For the
Right.
love.
That's what I'm saying though, because that's just a homie.
Well, and a hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm honored. And he's no slouch with like he's a visionary. Just
No,
like
he
Cypress,
architected that whole
the
Cypress
Cypress is one of the greatest inventions in rap history. So the movement of that.
Right.
So for him to trust me is like that's tight.
That is tight.
Yeah.
That is tight. Tell me about your relationship with Kanye. How did you meet, and how did that This Way record happen?
That happened. I'd imagine around the Get By time.
Oh, one of my favorite songs.
Was it 2003 or 4
Yeah,
maybe?
2003. Yeah, and you were in the studio with him a lot, right?
Yeah, so we were on Capitol, and we had just our last album. We had a song called "Worst Come to Worst," which was like a big record for us. We were getting play on things we hadn't got play on before. The album almost went gold. You know, we were like,
We toured.
we
were on tour at
toured. Yeah,
time.
that record opened up a huge thing for us, and yeah, doing a lot of touring. And we toured previous to that.
Okay, we toured
Platform, our first album.
ABB days.
No, we were on Capitol.
Okay.
It was you and High Tech. We were on the same bus. Remember?
Okay, yeah, we were
That shit was
we were like a
crazy.
bunch of pirates.
That shit was crazy.
Was it bunk beds?
That's
Yeah.
that's like a whole another life. But-
Coffins.
Coffins?
yeah. Don't let me forget this, but just because of that, I remember I brought my MPC and I was like, High Tech's gonna be on the bus and we're gonna beast out, and I set it up in the back and I was like, we're ready, turntable, and he's like, I ain't making beats on a bus, bro. I gotta have my shit, my speakers, the way I need it, the way I like it. And I was like, oh, you're ill like that. My bad. But worst come to worst. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it opened up a big thing for us. And the next album we made, I think our label had expectations of us raising the stakes, you know? So it was the first time we made an album and they denied it. Like we turned it in and they were like, nope, no single. So we're like, whatever. Black Eyed Peas had just popped off. I think they felt like Dilated Peoples and Black Eyed Peas, some kind of similarity. They had added Fergie and went from here to like over the roof. You know what I mean? And so they were like, you need a hit.
Right.
And so they're like, and we were just like young and defensive and fuck the label, the man trying to hold us down, etc. You know, and so we're like, then you tell us who to go make a hit with. And they said two people. They said Scott Storch or Kanye West. And Scott Storch was the biggest, but Kanye West wasn't. So we were like, you mean the guy who did Beanie Siegel? Like that shit sound like an Alchemist beat to me. You know what I mean? We'll do that. If that's what's gonna take us to the promised land, like we'll go there. So we didn't know about Kanye yet. Nobody did. Through the Wire wasn't a video yet. I remember watching it in the studio, making edits, you know, like changes.
Wow.
So, but he had this weird determination about him that was like nothing I had ever witnessed before. And I had been around the fucking greats. If Premier played you some shit, he would play it and then he wouldn't look at you while he played. He'd just look off in the corner because he knew what was coming out of there was so crazy he didn't have to sell it. Kanye West was the first person I ever saw like jump on the console and start rapping and making sure I look away before he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was
Yeah.
sick. You know what I
That's
mean?
true passion.
Yeah, it was weird, but there was nobody even. It was just him and me. So it was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
it was
it's-
like
when you really love something or you really like, you want to see like how they're reacting to it.
For the record, I never gave him that. I never looked away first. You know what I'm saying? I never did that with him.
But I think that speaks to why Kanye was so successful.
Oh hell yeah! But
You know.
so to get to it, once he got there, now I was like, oh, I see why they're doing this. You know, I didn't get it. Then his little wave, which I say little, started. I think with your record was probably the funniest part about this, and God is my witness. I watched that video, and I had no idea who Kanye West was. I used to say Kane West. I used to pronounce it right. You know what I mean? I didn't even know. I remember one time he asked Alchemist, how you get your drums like that? Like he was like some guy. You know what I mean? He wasn't on any radar of any sort of greatness to me.
Right.
And I watched that To Get By video, and for some reason, there's some guy in like 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever it is, songs were long. At the outro of the song, just singing the chorus for 1 second. And I always thought to myself, whoever that is going to be somebody. I swear to God I did. And it was him. He had one little part in your video.
He was
like,
on 125th Street
you know what I'm
station.
saying? Yeah, exactly.
And what happened was he was shooting 106 in Park, and it was in Harlem at that time. And it's like he had a couple of minutes to. We were like, let's just go to the 125th Street train station. We got him for a couple minutes singing the chorus of Get By.
But you didn't even like use a lot of it.
No, we just used like that one part.
You know what I'm saying? I something about him, I was like, and then there was another thing like in Source, like up and comers, and he had on like the blue Adidas Rod Laver joints or some weird, the shoe I knew, but in a weird color. And I was like, you know, something about him was always like, who is this? But so getting
You're very
with him,
observant.
Yeah, getting with him, and then I seen it just happen right in front of my face. It was like his whirlwind happened. And then we shot the video for that. Through the Wire came out. He shot All Falls Down right around the same time. We went on tour, College Dropout tour.
Right, I forgot y'all went on that tour.
Us Young Guns and Kanye West. And then my mom passed on that tour. I left. And then and that was it. That was it with him and I. And I was mad at him for a long time because he was the dude who most people make songs for their mom when she passes. You know, he was the dude showing his mom, like at the time where people didn't really do that
record?
shit. Yeah, they didn't do that.
That's the
Tupac,
first Kanye
Pac
West,
did it.
That's the first record he ever played me that he did.
Yeah, you know, and Pac did it too, but the way he did it was like he would like bring his mom on the road and shit. You know, like he was like a mama's boy rapper. You know what I mean? So like he never called me. I was Don C. Everyone, they all hit me. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't. I felt away for a while, and then Common was making the second album. He called me. And I went to the studio and chilled with them, and then everything was cool from there. You know what I'm saying? But
did you ever say anything to him about that?
Nah, I didn't say shit.
No.
I think he knew. You know, it didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It was just a thing. But to go back, while he was making Last Call, I played him the beat. I submitted a beat.
And you produced that Last Call.
Yeah, and so that to be like the only outside producer on College Dropout album that sold God knows how many copies, you know. And
we're connected because on Last Call, which you produced, he's talking about me and me taking him on tour.
Yes, and that song like is a lot of people's favorite joint, like hands down. Like people say Last Call is mayonnaise, color Benz, call it Miracle Whip. Sorry, like everyone knows that shit. Yeah. And that was like that's like that was his moment where he killed the world. And so Jay-Z was doing Black Album. Him and me driving in my car one day. He didn't have a car in LA. I'm driving him around. I got a beat that says, Mr. Rockefeller, can you get this to Jay-Z for me? And he's like, let me hear it. And it plays for a minute or two, and he goes, no, I think I'm gonna use that because I'm the new Mr. Rockefeller. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting looking at him, but his album's not out yet. Right. You know what I mean? I'm like, who are you to deprive me of a shot to get at Jay-Z? He was so early with that. And then, but the funny thing is when you watch Fade to Black, he does play it for Jay-Z. Right. So he did. You know what I mean? He did do that, but he didn't let me know that. And then this dude, my homie 3H, who worked at Capitol.
Shout out to 3H.
Yeah.
We was just talking about 3H the other day.
He called me one day and was like, yo, I'm at Larrabee Studios right now. And he puts the phone up and he's like, didn't you do this beat? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, they're almost finished, bro. You should get down here right now. So I got in my car. I swear it turned into a helicopter. I drove over LA. You know what I mean? I got and walked in like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? And there's musicians replaying the sample. I guess it didn't clear. And then I caught the end of it when he was doing the end of the verses. And yeah, I got to be a part of seeing the record finish. And him and I had a big argument. Like he pulled me into the like, well, there's a vocal booth and then there's a studio and then usually there's like a room in between those two. So you like walk in, you know, that little middle room between the booth and the console. He pulled me in there, it was airtight, and he was like, so, this is gonna be the biggest rap album in history. Right. So we need to talk about what happens when people ask who did what. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, how does it go? And he's like, you did the music, and I did the drums. And I'm like, all right. But then we're listening, and I'm like, that's my 808, right? And he's like, yeah, but I put it low. And I'm like, wait, those are my chimes too, right? Yeah, but you hear how the hats are going? Well, I put the Just to Get By drums on top. And I'm like, got you, you know, whatever. It was just so funny to see something that was like literally changed the whole era of rap. The whole climate of it, just to be there for the beginning of it. And that was the second time. The first time I got to do that was when Alchemist and Scott Kahn were signed to Cypress Hill, and I got to see them, hang around with them in their prime, and then watch them blow up. Because there's one thing when you hang out with an artist who's on their downslope, or something. But to be with an artist, like when it's their time and the youth and all that is like, is different.
And they know.
And they know. Yeah, it's different. It's different.
So right now, Madlib and Freddie Gibbs are enjoying success with the bandana.
That shit is fire.
Yeah, it's a great record.
Yeah,
people are, Madlib is like an enigma. People are like, how is he doing this? And like he's tweeting like, I made these beats on the iPad.
Yeah, he's trolling.
I spoke to him. No, he was like, he played me some beats off his iPad.
I mean, an iPad is just, I can pull up Pro Tools on an iPad.
Right.
It's just a screen.
Right.
I mean, so you theoretically.
Same as a computer.
It's the same. It's a smaller version. So
You started-
did you use your knuckles? Like, that's fire. You know what I mean? Or whatever. But,
Right, but that's where I'm getting to is like, you know, how important is it to have the right equipment? You started with ASR 10,
Yeah.
right? And then you talked about wanting to work with high tech on the MPC.
Yeah.
Madlib's talking about iPads. And shit, you know,
I did that. I did Reason. Then I went back to the ASR, back to that.
like what do you need? What equipment do you need?
You don't need anything. This is the beauty of it. I mean, you need a piece of gear, but you got all this technology, Ableton, wild shit. You could do anything you want, and every beat is still a kick, snare, hi-hat, loop, a bass line. So I can make it glitch more now, or I can make it, I don't know. It's like, to me, if it's not raw, if it's not good when it's raw, you can dress it up all you want. It's still, if you're making a soup, you get the base right. You don't have to pour a bunch of shit on top of it, you know? Otherwise, you fucking
Overdo it.
or trying to cover it up later. It's like putting perfume on instead of taking a shower. You know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah.
It's so cool that you guys can literally make beats anywhere now. Like you
That's
can just
fire.
carry
That's-
around your equipment with you. Don't have to be in a certain spot.
but I still fuck with high tech. For nothing like being in your studio with your room that you understand.
That's very important to high tech. Part of the reason why Quality, the solo album, even happened, and which I met Kanye doing that record. The Blast was successful, and we got an opportunity to tour. And I'm like, okay, it's time to tour, time to go on the road. But what I didn't realize was that High Tech's sensibility as a producer, he felt limited by essentially being Talib Kweli's DJ. It doesn't matter what I say, and you were on the road with us. You were on that bus with us.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many times I say in an interview, it's Quality and High Tech. It doesn't matter how many times I say, he did the beat. As the rapper, I'm being promoted and marketed more, and I'm being pushed to the forefront more, and I got the microphone. So it's like I'm being, you know, people are naturally coddling me more and treating me different, and they're treating him on the road, even though it's a group, like he's just a DJ, right? So it's like when it came time.
Not everyone knows what a producer even is.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
So when it came time to go on the road with Badu, it was a tour with Badu. In my mind, I'm like, we got to go on tour with Erykah Badu. And High Tech was like, I'm going to stay home, and I'm going to stay in the studio because what my bread and butter is making these beats.
And there was big checks at that time.
There was big checks. He
So,
got,
you know what I'm
he started
saying?
working with Dre and Snoop after
I'm
that.
saying, so it's like
You know?
I could go grind it out, or I could stay
Yeah.
home and make this.
I didn't really get that at that time, and it, you know, we had a falling out behind that. I wouldn't place the blame on him, and I definitely wouldn't place the blame myself either. But it was like I do understand now that it was hard for me to understand because my money was in touring at that time. Like it's like, you know, okay, we splitting the money, but it's like I can go do a show without High Tech. You know, it's like I didn't need him to tour, and I think he recognized that this is where I need to be in the studio.
Yeah. A lot of producers don't want to be the star. Their place is behind the board. You know, it's. I think Pete Rock changed that. I think Kanye definitely flipped it on its head.
yeah.
But there was artists who were known producers. I think probably Marley Marl, I guess the first was like being a producer album or whatever. But yeah, there's people. The shape of the producer changed as time went on. They moved to the forefront more. They used to be more, to me, like the role that the engineer plays now.
Right.
Like my work is in the studio. I'm not out here for credit. The people who know what I do know what I do.
Right. So who is the best producer on the mic?
Best producer on the microphone. Everyone can make beats now. Royce 5'9", right? 'Cause
Royce 5'9".
But more so official, like people
Now I need
that
to start making beats so I can get in on this best producer.
I got you, Talib. I can make you some beats now. I got an iPad.
yeah, that's out the window.
Were you
From
in-
that era, I'll have an answer before the end of it.
Okay. And growing up in Venice, Quincy Jones' son, QD3, grew up around you or near you.
That's how I got into rap.
Oh, tell me about that.
I lived in Santa Monica. When I moved to Venice, God blessed us to move next to him. And I didn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah, at the time I was a skater, graffiti artist. I loved rap. I was an EPMD fan. I was whatever, but I never thought about who made a beat. I didn't know what a beat was, whether it was a band or I knew people were sampling James Brown. I just listened to music as one piece of thing, like the same way you go to a movie and watch it. That's how I listen to music. There's movie editors who can't watch a movie because they're like, oh, that cut too early, and look at the fade, that's fucked up. They can't enjoy a movie.
Critique it the whole time.
Yeah, because they see it in parts. They don't see it. They don't see it as one thing. That's how I used to hear music, in one piece. And so I never knew what rap, how it got made. And what happened was he was all night. I would hear the music. His studio was in his garage, and all night I would hear music start and then stop, and then start and then stop, and I could never understand why I didn't just let the motherfucker play. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Little did I know. So my back wall of my house was in an alleyway, and my mother used to let us do pieces on our back wall. So we like all weekend we'd be out there doing pieces on our wall, and his garage entrance was next to the wall. So every time he'd go in and out of his house, he would like wave to us or whatever. And one day he stopped and just looked at what we were doing. He was like, "This is fire." And then he's like, "Come back, come check out what I'm doing." And so I went back there, and he was scoring the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
No.
Which was crazy.
My God.
And I was just, what the fuck is this? He's playing little keys. And
Wow.
And I was like, this is crazy. And he's like, yeah, my dad's Quincy Jones. And I was like, no shit. And then he's like, yeah, I'm a music producer. And he had dreads, and he was like a good looking dude. And I was like, why don't you rap? You know, and then he's like, no. Like,
He had a deal though, right?
Yeah, but he was just a producer album.
Right. I remember that album.
Yeah. And so he was like, nah, my place is behind the boards. And I was like, oh, this is fire. So I would see, he would let me come over there because I'm 13, 14. I can go over there, smoke, drink 40s.
Oh,
We're like, this is like my heaven.
Right.
Then Alchemist is like,
That is your heaven when you're 13. Smoke and drink 40.
That's not what I was doing at 13.
yeah, I was in
Playing
Venice.
with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, and then Alchemist wanted to come over.
Dolls.
I'm just confused by that.
Justin Timberlake dolls.
Jesus.
What do I do? Wine, water, coffee.
Get some wine.
I'm on this vino.
So,
Cheers, baby.
There's truth in this.
Salute. The a studio at that time to make rap was not common to have a place. So Will 1X, who's Will I Am, he would come over just in hopes of us going over there. Alchemist, Ahmad, all these dope motherfuckers, DJ AM, everybody would all like want to come to my house because if you did, that meant we could jump out of my window, go next door, smoke, watch Everlast come Too Short, watch people come over and rap and just sit there and go, wow, this is fucking crazy. You know,
I didn't know this. I didn't know these stories.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're good. Red Foo.
Wow.
Like everybody was like coming through.
This is the LA scene. Like I have these stories for myself.
Yeah.
It's Washington Square Park. What you're describing, like that's my Washington Square Park. You know, it's like that's and all these people that you see. Everybody was in this one space, but Washington Square Park essentially was these two cribs.
So yeah, we all went over there. We finessed money, make my mom give Quincy $100 so I could go over there and record. You know what I
So
mean?
that
Like,
also goes into why, when you're going back to where you were saying that it's more authentic for him, because he literally grew up in the business, like listening to you making some of iconic music.
It's like you grew up in the music business, like you know, you think about, you know, Scott Kahn, whose father's famous, or Quincy Jones' son is famous. You didn't have famous parents, but it's like you grew up around these people just from sheer sort of ambition.
or just good
Right
luck.
place, right
You know what I mean? Or whatever.
Proximity. You know, you watched the Bun B episode. We talked about proximity being key. Your proximity was very key.
And then he made the best out of his situation.
Yeah, and if you're hanging out with people who are really good at what they do, then you're going to
Rubs off on
imitate it. You know what I mean? Imitate it.
You met LL Cool J back then too, right?
I did at Quincy's studio.
So you met him there.
What?
So you played him a song.
I played him a song, and it was so bad, and he mustered up the good energy to sing along with my chorus.
Really?
And yes, and then it's like you know, and then whatever. I always think about that when I meet somebody who plays me something, because he was at top of his shit, and he didn't have to do that, and it wasn't even good, you know. And so it's just like, you gotta like, not discourage people, even if you're not seeing it sometimes.
Have you seen him since then?
No.
LL is another like enigma. I was doing some work on a potential show with him once recently, and you know, he DM'd me,
What?
and I was like, I didn't respond for a
What?
day because I was like, that's not really LL DM. Somebody hacked him, you know. And I mustered up the courage and I hit him back, and we got on the phone. He's like, "What's up, baby?"
No.
I was like, "LL Cool J called me baby. This
What?
is great."
I think you have to know what that means. You gotta kind of be from that era a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like DJ Revolution, like LL Cool J retweet or wrote DJ Revolution is on the air killing it right now, and then
Right.
he retweeted my 10-year-old my 20-year-old me is flipping the fuck out right now.
LL.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
because
man.
it's still like what he did, and that's the thing. When you really kill an era, people don't forget about it.
When I was at the height of Get By or something, that's where I met LL. I met him backstage at like a BET Awards or something, and it's like we're passing each other. He's like, "You're really dope." Like that's what he said when I first met him. But okay, here's my segue. LL was a ferocious battle rapper.
Yeah.
Right? And because he was a ferocious battle rapper, by many accounts, LL Cool J is Eminem's favorite rapper. One of them, if not his favorite. I listened to this thing on a Tony Touch show once where LL Cool J is a guest and Eminem calls in pretending to be an LL fan and is like kicking these LL rhymes. And he's doing them so good, LL's like, "Yo, you're really, really dope." Right? Now, Evidence is the homie. Shout out to Evidence. He dissed Eminem on your record.
Oh, Everlast.
Everlast.
You said shout
He
out
said
Evidence.
Evidence.
I was
That's
like,
what
Did I say that?
yeah, I
Yeah,
was
he
like,
said shout out Evidence. I'm
Now
like,
do that
wait.
again.
Well, no, that's
He's
a
like,
good.
what
That's
did
a
I
good
say?
segue because Everlast used to come over to QD3's house and rap, and I used to watch that. And when I thought of a name, I was trying to think of something similar to that.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, Everlast, Eminem. I kind of ripped Everlast off in a way. You know what I'm saying?
There's too many E's going on here. I'm getting confused with all the E's.
Yeah,
EV.
there's a lot of white rappers with E.
Oh yeah.
It's really look it up. Actually, it's fucking.
It's a whole
It's,
like rabbit hole of
it's-
white rappers that start with E.
That's,
Okay.
The white rapper starter pack.
Trust me, it's fucking crazy.
It's a real thing. Make a note. I'm gonna check it out.
I keep going, bro.
But did you?
No, it gets so bad. We'll like when this camera stops, we'll do it. Yeah, nah, I don't want to do it.
E-I-E-I-O.
I don't want to do it.
We'll do it later, Jared.
Yeah. Yo, but
Did you know he was gonna do that though?
no. So so this whole thing is a huge mistake. That was the funniest part of my beef with Eminem was a big mistake. Oh fuck, it's so bad. But can people come to a podcast twice or once you're done
Yes.
you're through?
You can never come back again. This is your only time
No,
getting
I'm
all out
saying-
right
Disinvited.
now.
No, like this historically is like one and done or
No,
you,
I did Drink Champs twice.
All right, so I want to save some shit for the
Okay,
next one.
yeah, for the next one. We don't need every story.
We don't need everything, but no, I had no idea when he said I buck a 380 on ones that act shady.
Right.
Planet Asia was there, Defari was there, Phil the Agony was there,
That's like
Raaka
my
was
family. He's naming all my good friends.
Oh.
there. You know, everybody was in the room. He didn't come out the booth, and none of us went, damn, like it wasn't there. Then I listened back, and after it, I realized what happened. He said Haley maybe a line or two later, and then whatever it was, it went A to B, and I was out of that. You know what I'm saying? See your way out. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was me. I was over there. I didn't even understand what was happening. I guess because Eminem and I had hung out with Mad Child, my homie. We had.
Right. I wanted to ask you about Mad Child too.
Yeah, I had Mad Child in town from Canada. We went to a Unity thing we used to have in LA.
Right.
I think EPM,
Shout out to Bigger B.
Big and B, rest in peace. Orlando. I think we were watching EPMD or something like that, and me, Em, and Mad Child were all just kicking it, watching it. He was like around the scene doing a lot of the same shows we were at that time, so it wasn't weird to me. I guess he felt like because maybe we had met and been cool that I single-handedly allowed Everlast to diss him, but wasn't the case. It was just something he did, and he didn't. Everlast knows he didn't warn any of us. He did that, you know what I mean, and whatever. And so he went back at me personally because of it. And you know, getting dissed by Eminem in the prime of his career.
That's
I'm
pretty
talking
cool.
about. It was not cool at all.
I'm like, diss me, please,
No,
Eminem,
no,
please
no, no.
diss me.
The real Slim Shady was out.
Right.
He was on over the top of the world. Probably the biggest rap moment in rap's history, arguably. Is the the emergence of Eminem.
Behemoth. Goliath. Yeah.
So there was a coffee shop I used to go to in the morning and get bagel and coffee, and I went there, and the girl looked at me one day, and she just looked at me and just started laughing in my face.
Wow.
And I was like, and she was like, "What are you gonna do?" That's what she told me. What are you gonna do?
My life is so different from yours in certain ways. That's crazy.
So I went back and wrote a rap against him, and it, whether you like it, don't like it, or anything in between, I got respect. You know what I'm saying? I thought I did good for the time. Said some good shit. And I just had more info on him because he was famous, and I knew some girl in Detroit who knew things, and she snitched on a bunch of little things, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Right.
And then he hit me again with another diss, and it wasn't that good. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have much on me. It's not like he had a lot of, or even cared, to be honest. Either which way. Another one went out. I didn't feel a way about it. And then rest in peace, Proof, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace to Proof, man.
My man,
Such a good dude.
Man, my man Montage got on a phone call with Proof and Bizarre.
Montage, who rolls with Strong Arm.
Yeah, he got on the phone with me and I believe Bizarre and Proof all at the same time on a conversation. And he said, it's over. And he said, y'all don't want it in Detroit, trust me, and you got to come here. And in LA, you're down with everybody. We're down with Cypress, Exhibit, etc.
Right.
This makes no
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah, were you working with Alchemist at the time?
Of course.
And
yeah.
was he working with Eminem at the time?
Not yet, but they were, probably wasn't soon after that. And but they were still down regardless. You know what I mean? And so and I said, where's Eminem? And his quote to me, with Montage and everyone as my witness, was, I speak for Marshall. So I said, cool. And he said, by the way, there is one more disc that we did that's coming out. But we put it only on the bonus joint because we're trying to, and so don't respond to that. And when I heard it again, he really wasn't going at me. It was more Everlast. You know what I mean? And so that was it. It dwindled away.
Right.
Eventually, Paul and I are cool.
Right.
I seen Eminem backstage at a festival one time with Alchemist. There was a little like, we're cool, and I get played on Shade 4-5. Like I'm blessed. That whole thing couldn't have worked out any fucking better. Like nothing really happened. I got to get respect for not backing down to somebody who was
you stood your ground.
Godzilla. You know what I mean? And then that was it.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your special connection with Alchemist and Step Brothers, and it's just such a special thing for hip hop.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my best friends, if not the one. And he's a special dude. He's a weird guy. Very overly driven. Knowing him well, it comes from his pops, who's just like a force, and he's just like, some people are just good at shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's really like, he's a dude, I don't know if he can or not, but if you give him a drum kit, he'll have it going by the end of the day, or a video game, he's gonna beat it. You know what I mean? He's just one of those like determined people where things click. And I do say it a lot, and I'll say it again, is I always remind myself when I'm hanging out with him that, yes, this is my friend, but this is the guy who did this, this is the guy who did this, this is the guy who did this, that I watched go from completely just copying Premier and copying Large Professor. We used to not use his beats because they were just bites. You know what I mean? It was like, Rappers Are in Danger comes out, and he's got a horn beat sound just like that, and he could do it though. That was the interesting part. Is like,
it's interesting, like when you speak about High Tech with reverence. When I first met him, what he was doing was he was trying to copy Diamond D and Showbiz and Premier and all them, and it's like, because he didn't have the relationships or the resources, I think a lot of producers who weren't in that New York crew were overworking, like working hard, like going all out their way. But that's how you become great.
It is. It's like you take apart a car and put it back together. You know how it works. You know what I mean? Even if you didn't build the car. So I watched an interview with Mtume when he said there's only 3 steps to like any art, and it's imitation, emulation, innovation. And he's saying the first one is, I'm paraphrasing, but the first one is where you see something and you say, I want to do that. So you copy it. And then the second one, you move on, and then you're not like listening, like, oh, the kicks go like that, and then you're doing them like that. It's not like that anymore, but you're still considering. And then the third one is where you become you or whatever. And I watched him go through all of those phases. He's entered innovation recently, like even in the recent years. He's my probably biggest inspiration for getting older and not getting worse. You know,
That's
so
dope.
yeah. So he's an ill dude. He could rap. Coming up, he was the best rapper around us. He always had this little, when his voice, before he got big, he had this Grand Poobah, MC Light kind of voice.
That's interesting.
It was crazy, man.
I'm trying to put that together in my mind right now.
Right.
Oh, it
But
was-
MC Light does have a, you know.
Right.
It was crazy. And yeah, just to watch his evolution, to throw rapping to the back and be determined to be one of the best producers and achieve it is, it's inspiring. So
Right.
even
You're-
till today, every day.
You're no slouch yourself on the
man.
production.
Oh, man, I'm working.
And you know, your production style is a foundation for West Coast hip hop. A foundation for, you know, Dilated Peoples is such an important group in the history of West Coast hip hop, in the history of underground hip hop, in the history of independent hip hop. Man, y'all really did that, man. Shout out to Babu,
Yeah.
shout out to Raaka.
And all the other producers too. You know,
That came in on those records,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But you were like the grandmaster of it, right? So it's
the
like,
sound was, yeah.
yeah, like, so can you just give us a little bit of the history of how Dilated started?
Dilated started with meeting Raaka, a place. It's similar because it's funny. There's a place in LA called the Hip Hop Shop. In Detroit, there's a place called the Hip Hop Shop. Same thing. It was a place on Melrose. Graffiti artists went, open mic. We would go there all the time. Raaka worked there. I had a beat from QD3. At that time, having a beat from a producer wasn't a normal thing, so I would use that to go around and be like, I got beats from QD3, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Right.
But I still didn't want to rap alone. I knew that. So I was looking for somebody. Alchemist and Scott Kahn had formed their Hooligans happened, so I wasn't going to be part of that. And I think I wanted to rap with somebody who looked like me more, but that didn't happen either. And so I found Raaka, and I met him, and the cool thing was I asked him to kick a rap, and he opened his book, and he had a rap, and it said verse 1, and then it finished, and then it wrote hook, and then that happened, and verse 2, and I was like, wow, what a organized thinker. You know, and I hadn't met anybody who was like writing in maybe song form.
They're just writing bars.
Yeah, he wasn't writing just bars. He kind of had like a vision. So I was like, let's do a song. We did over some QD3 beats, and the songs weren't good. I think we developed over a long period of time. Some groups get good, and then they come out killing shit. I think we came out doing our best, and people got to watch our evolution publicly, you know, which is dope.
I remember the impact of Work the Angles for me.
That shit was crazy.
What's the first single? Is that the first single?
No, the first thing was Third Degree with the Far Eye.
Third Degree. That's right. Third Degree. I bought that in Fat Beats.
Yeah.
But I remember Work the Angles was just smothering.
That
Man.
one
Like I
through the
DJ now, I still play that record.
We went through the roof with that. That was we got on like radio. I used to drive around and go from Power 106 to the Beat. At the time, the two killing it, and yeah, we'd be on both at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Flipping back and,
And then
forth.
Beat
This is
Junkies was
crazy.
taking over the radio at the time.
Friday nights.
Yeah, Friday Night
all the
Flavors.
mix shows were happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, it was just a really like that was when we.
That's
jumped
where our
the roof.
stories connect, because Black Star and Reflection Eternal happens when we leave New York and we come to do Unity. That's the beginning of that's my origin story. Performing Fortified Live at Unity because they were playing it on Friday Night Flavors after like Work the Angles.
Yeah.
And in between that and Feel the Agony of the Fire record or something.
Yeah, that scene was crazy right there.
Yeah, good times, man. We're near the end, but I did have another question I wanted to ask you based on something you said earlier. This is a world that I don't know about. So you're completely hip hop. I didn't know that you were a writer. Hip hop is the writers and the exciters and all that. I remember just growing up in New York, graffiti was such a huge part of the culture, but I never had a tag. I never had a name. I didn't have a book. I never wrote my name in bubble letters and stuff.
What?
You know, I didn't do any of that. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, that's all I used to do
Being honest
in
here.
class.
But William Upsky, which is a writer for The Source, he used to be a graffiti writer back in the day. He wrote a book called Bomb the Suburbs that I read when I was a teenager. And what was incredible to me about this book was he grew up in Chicago, but the graffiti scene for him was freight trains. And he was talking about doing big, huge pieces. Like, they didn't have the subway, so they're doing pieces on freight trains, and how he just would jump into like freight train cars and travel the country. And that was the graffiti scene for him. And I'm like, as a New Yorker who grew up, you know, with the inner city jungle vibe and the concrete, I'm like, wait a second, so you're out in some field somewhere Can you tell me what the LA graffiti scene was like when you were a kid and how it differs from the New York scene?
Venice Beach was like the mecca of that for the west side.
Right.
And the east side might have had the Panic Zone or Belmont Tunnel or
Right.
these different things, but there was it was based on yards.
I want you to
And
keep
yards
going.
were train tracks.
Okay, yeah, I want you to keep going, but I want to just jump in. You described Be Real as a hero, and when he was on the show, he talked about how he got his name because it was a graffiti tag name, and he tagged it on a wall.
Got you.
But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so that was it. Graffiti was the thing. And it's funny, when we did music, I think we carried, Raaka was a graffiti artist too. I think we carried a lot of that mentality into the music, which could be a reason for...
Like Artifacts did.
No, just the mentality and saying maybe, what I mean by that is graffiti is you would do your work and then what your work was on the wall is how you, if people knew who you were, was how you got judged. There was nobody to see you make it. So you could be anything or any walk of life. Nobody knew until they find out that's you. And then when they do, it's like uncovering a mystery movie. You're like some mythical creature. All to say is when we started our shit, we put stickers on our covers. We didn't, our first album, second album, third album, no faces on the cover. We were still kind of like, let's not sell us, let's sell the work. You know what I'm
logo?
saying? Brent Rollins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was
Brent
there?
Rollins did work for Raw because he did some stuff for us.
He's one of the greats of all time.
He did the Black Stars cover, right? So the guy who did, he did that little thing. The guy who did the Black Star cover also did the Dilated logo.
He did the Boys in the Hood logo. He did every logo. Gangstar.
Was there ever like a time where you were tagging, like the police almost caught you, or you had to like run?
Yeah, I
with
got
it?
caught. Yeah, that wasn't the shit.
No.
I didn't get caught by the police. I got caught by a construction worker who saw me bombing and grabbed me and held me until the cops came.
What?
It was
A concerned citizen.
Yeah.
A good Samaritan.
Fuck that guy.
I'm
wherever
making a
he's at.
citizen's arrest.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet you know how to get out of that now, though.
I do. Shout out to the Gracie family. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time now.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been the answer.
No doubt. Well, evidence is going to kick somebody's ass if they get out of line.
No, only know how to get out of something.
Right.
That's it.
Defense.
Nah, you can't get. You just got to run after that, huh?
Yeah, but I'm out.
Ladies and gentlemen, evidence is in the house.
Thank y'all for having me. This is dope. My first podcast.
This is your first
Ever
podcast?
popped your
Ever.
cherry?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh my god.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a